Saitama was just about to enjoy a rare shopping opportunity when reality decided to give him a detour. One moment he was trotting down a sun-beaten street, his mind focused on snagging some fresh radishes, and the next, he was standing in the middle of a massive hall. The kind of hall that seemed to stretch beyond reason, its walls so high they merged with the very heavens. Everywhere he looked, giant golden statues loomed over him, towering like silent gods. Candles burned in every direction, casting flickering lights across a room so vast, it felt like the building itself was alive. He scratched his bald head, looking around at the unfamiliar sight. The air was thick with incense, the kind that burned your nose and made you feel like you'd stepped into a different dimension. This isn't the market, is it? He muttered to himself, though no one seemed to be listening. A voice from behind him rumbled like a distant storm. The anomaly speaks. Saitama turned around, startled, and was met by a line of towering warriors in black armor, each one with a skull emblazoned across their chests. The leader of the group, a woman with a long coat and an eye insignia on her collar, walked forward, her eyes sharp with suspicion. "State your loyalties," she demanded. "Loyalties?" Saitama blinked. "I'm just trying to find some good radishes. What's with the heavy armor and creepy statues?" Behind her, a soldier with a scarred face and a tired look on his features sighed. "Captain Mason Drake, Imperial Guard," he said with a touch of weariness. "And for the record, I'm pretty sure I've seen weirder things today." Another armored figure, larger than the rest, stepped forward. His armor gleamed, though his face was completely obscured by his helmet. "Chaplain Titus Ward," he boomed. "If the Emperor wills it, we shall test this anomaly in the name of truth." Saitama scratched his chin. "Test? What is this, a quiz show? Look, I just need to get back to my shopping." The golden figure at the far end of the hall stirred slightly, and a strange, invisible pressure filled the air, as though the very building was watching him. Saitama felt it settle on him like a heavy cloak, but he didn't flinch. "Help them," the voice seemed to echo in his mind. "Punch what needs punching." The voice was deep, ancient, and power-laden. Yet, oddly, it felt familiar, like something he'd heard in the back of his mind on lonely days, when his fights felt too easy. "Yeah, all right," Saitama muttered to himself. "I guess I can punch stuff." He stepped forward, ignoring the looks from the soldiers behind him. "Let's just get this over with." Inquisitor Hart, though not exactly impressed, nodded sharply. "Follow us." They led him through corridors filled with bizarre machinery and strange sigils, finally arriving at a decrepit, war-torn manufactorum, a place that looked like it had been abandoned for centuries. The sky outside had turned a dull shade of gray, and the ground was scorched and cracked. A foul stench hung in the air. "Genestealer cultists," Captain Drake explained as he checked his weapon. "They infiltrate, corrupt, and if we don't stop them, they'll destroy everything." Saitama raised an eyebrow. "Genestealers? They sound pretty intense." "They're nightmares wrapped in flesh," Hart replied coldly. "But you're here to observe. No unnecessary violence." "Right," Saitama said, giving a half-hearted salute. "Observation, sure. Whatever that means." When they breached the manufactorum's entrance, they were immediately greeted by a horde of mutated, multi-limbed creatures with eyes glowing an eerie purple. They swarmed the halls like locusts, their claws gleaming in the dim light. Bolters roared, their deadly whine filling the air as the Black Templars and Guardsmen opened fire, cutting down the first wave of cultists. Saitama, however, didn't even flinch. He raised a hand as one of the Genestealers leapt toward him, claws outstretched. With a simple board movement, he caught its wrist and tapped it on the forehead. The creature crumpled, its body falling limply to the floor. Silence hung in the air for a brief moment. Everyone stopped firing. "Did you?" Captain Drake blinked, then let out a long, drawn-out sigh. "Oh, for the love of—" Inquisitor Hart raised an eyebrow. "You killed it with a tap?" Saitama shrugged. "Yeah, pretty easy." The Black Templar chaplain, whose face was obscured by his skull mask, took a knee, raising his weapon in silent reverence. "A miracle." Saitama scratched his head, feeling a little embarrassed. I just did what I had to do. As the cultists continued to charge, Saitama stepped forward, effortlessly swatting them aside like they were flies. He didn't break a sweat. He didn't even seem particularly interested, like he was bored out of his mind. At the heart of the manufactorum, they finally came across their main target, the Patriarch. It was massive, with multiple arms and a terrifying presence that radiated psychic power. It looked down at them with glowing, hunger-filled eyes, its mind pushing against Saitama's thoughts. "You will die like the rest," the Patriarch hissed in Saitama's mind. "We are Legion. The swarm is eternal." Saitama scratched his chin. "Is this guy the manager?" The Patriarch's eyes narrowed in confusion, but it didn't have time to respond. Saitama took a step forward, raised a fist and punched. The whole manufactorum shuddered. The ground cracked open, and the Patriarch's form turned to dust in an instant. "Well," Saitama muttered, wiping his hand. "That was easier than I thought." They returned to the ship, a place called the Saint Resolute, with Saitama somehow managing to stay bored through the whole ordeal. The soldiers and the Inquisitor all filed their reports, detailing the unexpected anomaly, an anomaly that, despite all reason, seemed to be winning every fight with a yawn. The news of Saitama's miraculous feats spread like wildfire. Inquisitors began to argue about what he represented. Some saw him as a divine gift, others as an anomaly to be purged. But regardless of the opinions, one thing was certain. His presence was making a huge impact. Later, when they arrived at Harvest's End, a planet on the brink of destruction from a Tyranid splinter fleet, Saitama was called upon once again to lend his unique talents. The plan was simple. They would board the Tyranid ship, break the capillary towers, and let the Navy destroy the heart of the infestation. Saitama was perfectly fine with that. He wasn't interested in saving the galaxy. He was just here to punch things. The Tyranid ship was a massive, fleshy structure, pulsing with strange, alien energy. Saitama entered without hesitation, his cape fluttering behind him as he walked casually through the chaos. He tapped Tyranid warriors like they were flies, each one crumpling under the force of his bored tap. At the heart of the ship, a Moloch burst through the ground, swallowing several soldiers whole. It was an enormous beast, but Saitama wasn't concerned. He walked right up to it, leaped, and landed on its skull with a light thud. The beast, which had swallowed men in seconds, collapsed immediately after one light tap on the forehead. By the time they reached the capillary tower, the entire Tyranid fleet was in chaos. Saitama peered into the column that funneled energy into the ship's heart, then turned to the others. "Is this important?" he asked, genuinely curious. The tech priest Cole was already typing on his augmetic, his voice crackling through their comms. "Destroying it would be advantageous for the category us." Saitama didn't need any more encouragement. He pulled his fist back and threw a punch that would have shattered a moon. The entire Tyranid ship's structure groaned, and the capillary tower exploded into dust. From orbit, the Navy reported that the bioship had experienced catastrophic structural disagreement. On the surface below, the farmers looked up at the sky and saw the first dawn in days. As they returned to their ship, Captain Drake slapped Saitama on the back. "You're a walking miracle, you know that?" Saitama shrugged, looking out at the stars. "I guess. But all I really wanted was to get some radishes." And so, aboard the Saint Resolute, a legend was born, one that would spread through the Imperium like wildfire. The bald saint, the one who punched with a yawn, and saved the galaxy one tap at a time. And though no one knew what he truly was, there was one thing they did know for sure. Whatever Saitama was, the Imperium was going to need him. Because when things got too tough to handle, the only thing left to do was hope that one punch was enough. Somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the Emperor, who hadn't moved in 10,000 years, remembered what it was like to smile. He didn't show it, but he remembered. And maybe, just maybe, the greatest thing a hero could do was keep showing up when the galaxy seemed ready to fall apart. And so, Saitama kept punching,